Most men don't lose a woman because another man was better. They lose her because they slowly destroyed their own value without realizing it. They over-explain their actions. They chase her attention. They drop their purpose just to keep her interested. And the worst part is, my friend, they think those behaviors prove love, loyalty, and effort. But to a woman, it often signals something very different: weakness. Let's be honest for a moment, folks. Many men are told that if they just try harder, communicate more, and give more of themselves, the relationship will become stronger. So, they talk too much. They explain every decision. They reveal their entire life story in the first few conversations. And without noticing it, they remove the very tension and respect that attraction depends on. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. Attraction doesn't disappear because you were too strong. It disappears when you slowly give away your mystery, your discipline, and your self-control. In this video, we're going to break down the 9 things smart men never do with women. These are quiet mistakes that destroy respect, collapse your presence, and shift the power of the relationship without you even noticing. Once you understand these rules, you'll start seeing every interaction differently. And more importantly, you'll stop giving away your value. Let's get into it. Rule 1. Never over-explain yourself. Let's start with a mistake that quietly destroys a man's authority in almost every interaction with women, folks. Over-explaining. Now, at first, this might sound harmless. After all, many men believe that explaining themselves clearly shows honesty and maturity. They think that if they provide enough reasons, enough details, and enough justification, the other person will understand them better. But here's the uncomfortable truth, my friend. The more a man explains himself unnecessarily, the more he signals that he is asking for approval, and approval seeking instantly lowers perceived value. Let's be honest about something. When a man is calm and secure in his decisions, he rarely feels the need to justify every move he makes. He speaks simply, he says what he means, and then he moves forward without needing validation. But when a man over-explains, the energy changes. Instead of communicating confidence, he starts sounding like he's defending himself in a courtroom. Let me give you a real example. Imagine Mark, 46, from Dallas. Mark has been casually seeing a woman named Lisa, 42. One evening, Lisa texts him asking why he didn't reply earlier that afternoon. Now, Mark could respond simply, something like, "I was busy with work today." Clear, direct, nothing more needed. But instead, Mark sends a long message. He explains the meeting he had with his boss, the traffic on the way home, the phone call from a co-worker, and how his phone battery died for a while. By the time he finishes typing, the message looks like a small paragraph. And here's the interesting part. Lisa didn't ask for all of that, but Mark felt the need to justify himself anyway. Why? Because subconsciously, he was trying to prove that he had a valid reason. Now compare that to another man in the same situation. A man who understands his own value doesn't rush to explain every detail. If he says he was busy, that statement stands on its own. He doesn't feel pressure to convince anyone. That calm simplicity creates a very different impression. Instead of appearing defensive, he appears grounded. And that difference matters more than most men realize, because attraction is strongly connected to emotional certainty. When a man begins over-explaining, it suggests that he is worried about how his actions are being judged. That subtle insecurity shifts the dynamic. Instead of being the man leading his life, he begins looking like someone trying to pass a test. And once that frame appears, it becomes difficult to reverse. Lisa might not consciously analyze Mark's long explanation, but she will feel the shift in tone. Something about it feels slightly unsure. Meanwhile, the man who speaks clearly and moves on feels different. His words carry weight because he doesn't overload them with justification. Now here's the key point, folks. Not every explanation is bad. There are moments in life where communication and clarity are necessary, but smart men understand the difference between communicating and defending their existence. When you explain every move, every delay, every decision, You slowly train people to believe they are entitled to those explanations. And once that habit forms, your authority in the interaction weakens. So, here's the principle to remember, my friend. Speak clearly, be honest, but don't over-explain. Confidence sounds simple. If this idea resonates with you, drop this in the comments. I speak with certainty. Stick with me because the next rule exposes another mistake that quietly destroys attraction. It's the moment a man starts chasing her attention instead of letting his presence naturally draw it in. Rule 2. Never chase her attention. Let's talk about another mistake that quietly weakens a man's position with women, folks. Chasing attention. Now, many men confuse attention with attraction. They believe that if a woman is constantly replying, laughing at their jokes, or giving them frequent validation, then everything must be going well. So they begin trying to maintain that attention at all costs. They text first every day. They respond instantly to every message. They fill every silence with new conversation. And slowly, without realizing it, their behavior starts revolving around her reactions. But here is the truth, my friend. The moment a man starts chasing attention, he unintentionally places himself in a lower position. Because attention is a form of value, and the one who chases value usually appears to have less of it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life." What he meant was that a disciplined mind does not depend on constant external validation. A man who understands this principle carries a very... Many men believe attraction grows when they constantly show interest, but attraction often grows through a balance of presence and independence. When a man is fully absorbed in his own direction, his work, his mission, and his life attention naturally moves toward him. Why? Because people are drawn to individuals who appear self-contained. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." A man who constantly seeks attention from someone else is no longer fully in control of his own emotional state. His mood begins depending on whether she responds, how quickly she replies, and what tone she uses. That dependency creates pressure, and pressure quietly drains attraction. Now contrast that with the man who values his time and focus. He enjoys conversation, but he does not structure his day around waiting for someone else's message. If she replies, great. If she takes time, his life continues moving forward. That calm independence creates a completely different impression. Instead of feeling chased, she feels curiosity. Instead of sensing neediness, she senses stability. This doesn't mean ignoring women or acting cold. It simply means your attention is not something you give away desperately. It flows naturally when there is genuine engagement, because attention that is constantly offered loses its value, but attention that is balanced with purpose feels meaningful. So here is the principle to remember, folks. The moment you begin chasing someone's attention, you slowly teach them that your presence depends on their validation. The man who understands his value does something very different. He builds a life that already holds his focus. And when a woman enters that life, his attention becomes something she experiences, not something he begs to receive. If this insight resonates with you, drop this in the comments. I value my attention. Stay with me because the next rule reveals another mistake many men make early in attraction. It's the moment they reveal too much about themselves before the mystery of who they are has time to grow. Rule 3. Never reveal everything too soon. Let's talk about a mistake that many men make when they feel excited about a new connection, folks. They reveal too much of themselves too quickly. At first glance, this seems like a good thing. After all, honesty and openness are important in relationships. Many men believe that if they share everything about their lives early on, it will build trust and emotional closeness faster. But here's the reality, my friend. When a man reveals his entire story too soon, he removes the natural tension that attraction depends on. Mystery disappears, curiosity fades, and the interaction starts feeling predictable long before the connection has had time to grow. Let's be real about how human psychology works. Attraction often grows through discovery. When you meet someone interesting, part of the excitement comes from learning about them gradually. Each conversation reveals a new layer. Each interaction creates a new question. That process keeps curiosity alive. But when a man shares his entire life story in the first few conversations, that process ends before it even begins. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Imagine Kevin, 45, from Atlanta. He meets a woman named Sarah, 41, at a small networking event. They start talking over drinks, and the conversation flows easily. Sarah asks Kevin what he does for work. Now Kevin could answer simply, something like, "I run a small consulting firm." That answer opens space for future conversation, but Kevin keeps going. He explains how he started the business, the struggles he had 5 years ago, the partners who betrayed him, the lessons he learned, and his entire career timeline. The conversation shifts from curiosity to information overload. Sarah listens politely, but something subtle happens. The mystery disappears. Later in the evening, Sarah asks Kevin what he likes to do outside of work. Again, Kevin shares everything at once. His hobbies, his past relationships, even emotional details about his last breakup. By the end of the conversation, Sarah already knows more about Kevin than she expected to learn in the first several weeks. And ironically, that level of openness reduces the tension that attraction feeds on, because attraction thrives on gradual discovery. Now imagine a different approach. Kevin answers Sarah's questions with clarity but restraint. He shares enough to be authentic, but not so much that every part of his life is immediately exposed. When Sarah asks about his work, he gives a short answer and asks her about her career. When she asks about his hobbies, he mentions a few things casually, without turning the conversation into a biography. Now, curiosity remains alive. Sarah leaves the conversation still wondering about him, and that curiosity becomes a reason to see him again. Here's the key idea, folks. This isn't about hiding who you are or playing games. It's about understanding the rhythm of connection. When information is revealed gradually, it allows interest to grow naturally. But when everything is revealed immediately, the emotional experience becomes flat. So, here's the principle to remember, my friend. Be honest, be real. But don't rush to reveal every detail of your life the moment someone shows interest. Let people discover you, because the most intriguing men are not the ones who overshare their entire story. They are the ones whose presence invites curiosity. If this idea resonates with you, drop this in the comments. I reveal myself slowly. Stay with me, because the next rule exposes another trap many men fall into. It's the moment a man tries to change a woman, instead of standing firmly in who he already is. Rule 4. Never try to fix her. Let's talk about a trap many well-intentioned men fall into, folks. The urge to fix a woman. Now, on the surface, this sounds noble. A woman shares her struggles, her past, or the chaos happening in her life. And a man immediately feels the instinct to step in and solve it. He gives advice. He offers solutions. He tries to guide her toward becoming a better version of herself. But here's the hard truth, my friend. The moment a man turns himself into her fixer, he quietly destroys the attraction that brought her to him in the first place. Because attraction is built on presence and strength, not rescue. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That idea reveals something powerful about relationships. A strong man does not spend his time trying to rebuild another person. He focuses on living his own principles with clarity. And that grounded presence is what people are naturally drawn toward. When a man tries to fix a woman, something subtle happens psychologically. He places himself in the role of therapist, teacher, or savior. Instead of being a man she experiences attraction toward, he becomes someone responsible for managing her problems. And responsibility changes the dynamic. Think about it. The energy between two people shifts the moment one person becomes the emotional repair system for the other. Instead of tension and curiosity, the interaction becomes heavy. Epictetus once said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." A wise man understands that the only life he can truly shape is his own. Trying to change someone else often comes from ego disguised as compassion. It assumes that with enough guidance, enough patience, and enough effort, another person will transform into who we believe they should be. But real change never happens that way. People change when they decide to. And when a man spends too much time trying to repair someone's life, two things usually occur. First, the woman stops seeing him as a man she feels excitement around. He becomes the person she talks to when things go wrong. Second, he slowly loses focus on his own direction. The strongest position a man can hold is not that of the savior. It is the position of grounded presence. He listens without trying to control outcomes. He understands without attempting to reshape someone's identity. That quiet stability allows others to rise in their own time. Because the truth is simple, folks. A woman does not need a man to rebuild her life. She needs to see a man who has already built his own. That kind of presence creates inspiration rather than pressure. So here is the principle to remember, my friend. Support without rescuing, care without trying to control someone's growth. Respect the process of who they are becoming while continuing to focus on your own path. If this insight resonates with you, drop this in the comments. I lead my own path. And before we continue, if you enjoy exploring these deeper ideas about Stoicism, masculine discipline, and understanding human psychology in relationships, consider joining the channel membership. Members get access to deeper insights and exclusive content designed to help you sharpen your mindset and navigate situations like these with more clarity. Stay with me because the next rule reveals one of the biggest mistakes men make in relationships. It's the moment they abandon their mission just to keep a woman's attention. Rule 5. Never abandon your mission. Let's talk about one of the quietest ways a man loses attraction in a relationship, folks. And the sad part is many men do it believing they are proving love. They abandon their mission. Now think about what happens when a man first meets a woman he is excited about. In the beginning, his life already has direction. He has work to do, goals he is chasing, a routine that gives his life structure. That focus is often the exact thing that attracted her to him. But slowly, something begins to shift. He starts rearranging his schedule to match hers. The gym session gets skipped because she wants to meet earlier. The project he was working on gets delayed because he would rather spend the evening texting. At first it feels small, but over time those small adjustments become a pattern. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Imagine Andrew, 47, from Seattle. Andrew runs a small construction business. His days are busy, and he takes pride in the work he has built over the years. A few months ago, he met a woman named Rachel, 42, through mutual friends. The chemistry was good. They enjoyed spending time together, and Rachel admired Andrew's work ethic. But as the relationship progressed, Andrew started shifting his focus. Instead of waking up early to plan his projects, he stayed up late messaging Rachel. He began canceling gym mornings so he could sleep longer after late phone calls. Even meetings with his team sometimes got pushed around to fit Rachel's schedule. At first, Rachel appreciated the attention, but something subtle started changing. Andrew's conversations slowly revolved more around Rachel and less around his work, his goals, and the things that originally defined him. Without realizing it, he stopped being the man she admired and began becoming the man orbiting her attention. And that shift is dangerous, because attraction is deeply connected to direction. When a woman meets a man who has purpose, she senses stability and momentum. His life is moving somewhere. She becomes part of that journey, not the center of it. But when a man abandons that mission, the dynamic reverses. Now his energy depends on her reactions. Rachel begins noticing that Andrew always seems available. His schedule bends around her life instead of the other way around. And strangely enough, The same attention that once felt flattering now feels heavy, because deep down, most women respect a man who protects his purpose. The man who remains committed to his mission signals strength. He communicates that his life has structure, meaning, and direction, and that kind of focus is magnetic. Andrew eventually realized this when he looked back at how much of his routine had disappeared. His business goals had slowed, his personal discipline had faded, and once he returned his focus to his work, something interesting happened. Rachel's interest began rising again. Why? Because she started seeing the man she was originally drawn to, the man with direction. So here's the principle to remember, my friend. A relationship should complement your mission, not replace it. When you abandon your purpose for someone else's attention, you slowly erase the very thing that made you attractive in the first place. But when you stay committed to your direction, your life maintains the structure and energy that people naturally respect. If this insight resonates with you, drop this in the comments. I protect my mission. Stay with me because the next rule reveals another silent mistake that destroys attraction. It's the moment a man starts competing with other men for her attention instead of simply holding his ground. Rule 6. Never compete with other men. Let's talk about a mistake that quietly destroys a man's status the moment he makes it, folks. Competing with other men for a woman's attention. Now, this happens more often than most men realize. A man notices that a woman he's interested in is also talking to other men. Maybe it's on social media, maybe it's at a party, maybe it's simply the awareness that she has options. And suddenly, something changes inside him. He starts trying harder. He becomes funnier, louder, more eager to impress. He tries to outshine the other men in the room. Sometimes he even starts comparing himself directly, wondering if the other guy has more money, better looks, or a stronger personality. But here's the truth, my friend. The moment you start competing for a woman's attention, you've already lowered your position. Because competition signals that her approval is something you need, and neediness is the fastest way to destroy attraction. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That idea applies perfectly here. A man with true confidence does not measure his worth against the behavior of others. His identity does not fluctuate based on who else is in the room. He remains the same man regardless of the competition. The problem is that many men misunderstand what confidence looks like in these situations. They believe confidence means winning the contest. But real confidence means refusing to participate in the contest at all. Think about the psychological frame for a moment. When multiple men begin competing for attention, the woman automatically becomes the center of value in that interaction. All energy flows toward her approval. But the man who stays calm and grounded changes that dynamic entirely. Instead of trying to prove himself, he simply continues being himself. He doesn't interrupt others to get the spotlight. He doesn't try to dominate every conversation. He doesn't need to demonstrate superiority over anyone else. His presence is steady, and that steadiness creates a strange effect. While the other men appear reactive, he appears self-contained. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, a man who truly knows his worth does not rush to defend it in every situation. He allows his actions and consistency to speak over time. That calm detachment often carries far more weight than any attempt to impress, because the man who refuses to compete communicates something powerful without saying a word. He communicates that his value does not depend on winning approval, and paradoxically, that independence often attracts more attention than any performance ever could. Here's another psychological truth many men miss. When you compete for attention, you also train the other person to evaluate you constantly. Your behavior becomes part of a comparison game. But when you refuse to compete, you remove yourself from that frame entirely. You become something else, a man with his own gravity. So, here's the principle to remember, folks. If a woman wants to compare men like contestants in a competition, the smartest move is to step out of the contest entirely. The man who understands his value doesn't scramble for the spotlight. He simply stands where he is. If this insight resonates with you, drop this in the comments. I refuse to compete. Stay with me because the next rule exposes a deeper mistake that many men make in relationships. It's the moment they start making a woman the center of their happiness instead of the partner to a life they already enjoy. Rule 7. Never make her your happiness. Let's talk about a mistake that feels romantic on the surface but quietly destroys a man's strength over time, folks. Making a woman the center of your happiness. Many men are taught that love means devotion. They believe that if they show a woman she is their entire world, she will feel deeply valued and secure. So they begin shaping their emotional life around her. If she is happy, they feel happy. If she becomes distant, their mood collapses. If she gives attention, they feel energized. If she pulls away, they feel anxious. Without realizing it, their emotional balance becomes dependent on her behavior. Let's be honest for a moment, my friend. That kind of emotional dependence may look like devotion, but psychologically, it creates pressure. Let me show you how this often happens in real life. Imagine Daniel, 48, from Minneapolis. Daniel met a woman named Claire, 44, through mutual friends. In the beginning, their connection felt natural and easy. Claire enjoyed Daniel's calm personality and the way he talked about his hobbies and the life he had built. But as the relationship grew closer, Daniel began shifting his emotional focus. Instead of finding satisfaction in his routine, his work, and his friendships, he slowly started relying on Claire's presence to feel good about his day. If Claire was excited to see him, Daniel felt energized. If she took longer to respond to messages, Daniel felt uneasy. When she cancelled plans once because she was busy, his entire mood for the evening collapsed. Claire noticed the shift. The man she first met had a full life. He talked about projects he enjoyed, time with friends, and things he was building for himself. But gradually, Daniel's conversations began revolving around Claire herself. His happiness started depending on her reactions, and something subtle changed in Claire's perception. Because attraction is often strongest when two people bring their own happiness into the relationship. But when one person becomes the sole source of the other's emotional stability, the dynamic becomes heavy. Claire began feeling that Daniel's emotional balance depended on her behavior. And once that pressure appeared, the natural excitement between them began fading. Now, imagine the alternative. A man who enjoys a relationship deeply, but does not rely on it to define his happiness. He values the connection, but his emotional center remains stable regardless of temporary changes in attention. Daniel eventually realized this when he stepped back and returned his focus to the parts of life that originally gave him fulfillment. His workouts, his work projects, and time with friends began filling his schedule again. Something interesting happened. Claire noticed the shift. Daniel felt lighter again. Conversations stopped revolving around reassurance and returned to curiosity and shared experiences. And with that change, attraction quietly returned. Because when a man carries his own happiness, a relationship becomes something that enhances his life rather than something that controls it. So here's the principle to remember, my friend. A woman should add to your happiness, not become the source of it. When your life already contains purpose, fulfillment, and emotional balance, the connection between you becomes something that grows naturally. But when your happiness depends entirely on her presence, you hand over control of your emotional world. If this insight resonates with you, drop this in the comments. I create my own happiness. Stay with me because the next rule reveals another hidden trap that many men fall into. It's the moment a man reacts emotionally to her tests instead of holding his ground with calm discipline. Rule 8. Never react to her tests. Let's talk about something many men experience but rarely understand clearly, folks. Tests. Now, the word test sometimes makes people uncomfortable, but let's be honest about human behavior for a moment. In every relationship, people observe how the other person reacts under pressure. not always consciously, but constantly. Small comments, playful teasing, sudden mood shifts, delayed replies, even sarcastic jokes. These moments often serve one psychological purpose. They reveal emotional stability, and this is where many men fail without realizing it. The moment a woman challenges them slightly, they react emotionally. They become defensive, they argue, they try to prove themselves. Sometimes they even become irritated because they feel disrespected. But the reaction itself is what reveals weakness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That sentence is one of the most important principles in Stoic thinking. It reminds us that the real measure of strength is not what happens around us, but how we respond to it. In relationships, tests often exist for that exact reason. They reveal whether a man can remain grounded when his emotional frame is shaken. Let's look at a common situation. A woman might say something playful like, "You probably say that to every woman you meet." Now, this comment isn't necessarily an accusation, it's often a probe. She's observing how you react. Many men immediately defend themselves. "No, I don't. I'm serious. I'm not like that." The energy becomes tense. But the man who understands emotional discipline reacts differently. He stays relaxed. Maybe he smiles and says something calm like, "You'd have to ask them." No irritation, no defensiveness, just composure. That response sends a very different signal. It communicates emotional control. Epictetus once said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." Think about that for a moment, my friend. The moment someone can provoke you into emotional reactions, they gain influence over your behavior. A man who reacts impulsively to every challenge gives away that control. But the man who stays calm becomes extremely difficult to manipulate. This doesn't mean ignoring someone or pretending you don't care. It simply means your emotional state remains steady, regardless of small provocations. And that steadiness carries weight. When a woman sees that her playful challenges or emotional shifts do not shake your composure, she learns something important. Your stability is real, not an act, not a performance, a genuine part of your character. And that kind of stability creates trust and attraction simultaneously, because emotional discipline is rare. Most people react instantly to frustration or insecurity, but the man who remains centered under pressure stands apart from the crowd. So, here's the principle to remember, folks. You don't pass someone's tests by arguing, explaining, or proving yourself. You pass them by remaining calm. If this insight resonates with you, drop this in the comments. I remain calm and centered. Stay with me, because the final rule reveals something even more powerful. It's the moment a man refuses to apologize for the standards he chooses to live by. Rule 9. Never beg for her desire. Let's talk about a mistake that quietly destroys a man's dignity faster than almost anything else, folks. Begging for desire. Now, this rarely looks like literal begging. Most men would never say something that obvious. But the behavior shows up in subtle ways. Asking questions like, "Do you still like me?" Fishing for reassurance, trying to convince her to feel attraction again. And if we're being honest here, my friend, the moment a man starts trying to negotiate desire, the dynamic is already broken, because attraction is not something that can be argued into existence. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Imagine Brian, 49, from Phoenix. Brian had been dating a woman named Melissa, 44, for a few months. In the beginning, the connection was strong. They laughed easily together, spent weekends exploring new restaurants, and the chemistry felt natural. But after some time, Melissa's energy began shifting slightly. She still responded to Brian's messages, but the excitement wasn't quite the same. Conversations felt shorter. She seemed a little more distant. Brian noticed immediately. Now, at that moment, a man has two possible reactions. The first reaction is the one most men choose. Brian starts asking questions. "Did I do something wrong? Are you losing interest? Tell me what you're feeling. At first it might seem like honest communication, but psychologically something else is happening. Brian is asking Melissa to validate his value, and once that dynamic appears, desire begins fading even faster, because attraction thrives on authenticity, not negotiation. Now imagine a different response. Brian notices the shift in energy, but instead of chasing reassurance, he stays calm. He doesn't accuse. He doesn't pressure. He continues living his life with the same grounded presence he had before. When Melissa sends a message, he replies naturally. When she takes time to respond, his day continues without emotional collapse. In other words, he refuses to beg for desire. And that decision changes everything, because desire only has meaning when it is freely given. The moment someone feels pressured to prove their attraction, the emotional experience becomes forced. Melissa may not consciously analyze Brian's behavior, but she will feel the difference. One version of Brian appears anxious, trying to secure validation. The other version appears stable, comfortable in his own life, regardless of the outcome. And stability is far more attractive than persuasion. Here's the deeper truth, folks. A man who begs for desire is unknowingly communicating that he doubts his own value. But a man who respects himself understands something very simple. Not every connection is meant to last, and that's okay. Brian eventually realized this when he stopped focusing on Melissa's reactions and returned his energy to the things that defined his life: work, friendships, and personal growth. Something interesting happened. Melissa's curiosity slowly returned, because the man she first met was confident, self-directed, and emotionally steady. The moment Brian stopped chasing her desire, he returned to being that man again. So here's the principle to remember, my friend. Desire cannot be forced. The moment you start begging for it, you lose the very quality that creates it. But when you remain grounded in your own worth, the people who truly feel attraction will move closer on their own. If this insight resonates with you, drop this in the comments. I never beg for desire. Stay with me, because the final rule reveals one of the strongest principles of all. It's the moment a man refuses to apologize for the standards he chooses to live by. Rule 10. Never apologize for your standards. Let's close with a principle that separates confident men from men who slowly negotiate away their own value, folks. Never apologize for your standards. Now let's be clear about what standards actually mean, my friend. Standards are not rules you impose on someone else. They are boundaries you place around your own life. They define what behavior you accept, what environment you live in, and the type of relationship you are willing to build. But here is where many men make a quiet mistake. The moment those standards create tension with a woman, they begin softening them. They explain them, they dilute them, and sometimes they even apologize for having them in the first place. It might sound like this: I know it's probably unreasonable, but I just prefer honesty. I'm sorry if this sounds strict, but I don't like disrespect. I don't want to seem controlling, but I value loyalty. Notice what is happening in those moments. The man is apologizing for the very principles that define his character. And the moment that apology appears, something subtle changes in the dynamic. His standards stop sounding like personal values and start sounding like negotiable preferences. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. Imagine Michael, 48, from Nashville. Michael has built a stable life for himself. He runs a small logistics company and values discipline, honesty, and direct communication. He meets a woman named Lauren, 43, and they begin dating casually. At first, things are easy. But after a few weeks, Michael notices something that bothers him. Lauren frequently cancels plans at the last minute. The first time it happens, Michael stays patient. Life happens. But when it becomes a pattern, he decides to address it calmly. Instead of accusing or arguing, he simply says something direct. I respect your time, and I respect mine. If plans change occasionally, that's normal, but consistency matters to me. That sentence communicates a standard. No anger, no apology. Lauren now has a choice. She can either respect that boundary or decide that she prefers a different type of relationship. But notice what Michael did not do. He did not apologize for expecting reliability. He did not say, "Maybe I'm being too demanding." He simply expressed how he lives, and that clarity is powerful, because a man who apologizes for his standards signals uncertainty about his own values. But a man who calmly holds his standards communicates self-respect. People may not always agree with your standards. Some will walk away, but the people who remain will respect the consistency behind them. And that consistency builds something far more valuable than temporary approval. It builds trust. So, here is the final principle to remember, folks. Your standards are not weapons against other people. They are boundaries that protect the quality of your life. You don't need to defend them with long explanations, and you certainly don't need to apologize for them. A man who knows what he stands for moves through life with quiet clarity, and that kind of clarity is rare. Before we close, folks, let's bring everything together. Today we explored the mistakes that quietly destroy a man's presence with women. From over-explaining yourself, chasing attention, revealing too much too soon, trying to fix her problems, abandoning your mission, competing with other men, making her the center of your happiness, reacting emotionally to tests, begging for desire, and finally apologizing for the standards that define who you are. Each of these behaviors may seem small on the surface, but over time they slowly erode respect, attraction, and the authority a man carries in his own life. The real lesson here is simple. A strong man does not chase validation, negotiate his worth, or abandon his purpose. He builds a life with discipline, clarity, and self-respect, and the right people naturally gravitate toward that energy. If you want to go deeper into these ideas about Stoicism, masculine discipline, and understanding human psychology in relationships, consider joining the channel membership. Members get access to deeper insights and exclusive content designed to help you strengthen your mindset. And if you found value in this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Thank you for being here, my friend. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you again tomorrow.